Intense back pain. Intense back pain that comes over to the side or radiates down into the groin or hip. Intense back pain, just what I described, with blood in your pee. What am I describing? Kidney stone. Usually when you present to the emergency room for the first time with those kind of symptoms, it's pretty painful. But believe it or not, once people know that their diagnosis is a kidney stone and it's not going to kill them, the pain is tolerable. In fact, as you get to be a veteran of these things, usually it's just calling up the doc's office saying, hey, I'm passing another kidney stone, can I have some pain medicines? I'll stay home, I'll drink some fluids, I'll catch it for you. So that's what we usually do. When we first diagnose it, it's usually going to be with a CT scan. First it'll be a urine sample to make sure there is blood, then it'll be a CT scan to see how big the stone is, how many there are, and where it is. If you look at the illustration here, I've got a picture of kidneys, ureters, the bladder, and the urethra. You got two kidneys on each side, they're in the back. But usually the stone forms up here in the calyces of the kidney. And it could be inherited, it could be because you're on way too much protein or too much salt. It could be because you're on a water pill. It could be because you're on too much protein supplement or taking high doses of protein, so be careful. So whatever it is, the kidneys' calyces are where they first start as little crystals. If they continue to be exposed to more crystals, it'll accumulate like a snowball. Eventually you'll have an actual formed stone, and the stone will probably move with enough hydrostatic pressure or enough urine that's being produced by the kidney. It'll move into this area. Once it moves into the ureter, it's a tube essentially, and once it's in the tube, if it's small enough, it'll start on its path down into the urethra. And if it's small, it'll fit. Typically small is less than a centimeter. Once they get to centimeter size though, and they can't sit up here until they get to centimeter size, and they don't fit anymore. And these things are painful. You can probably force it, now this is a hard plastic tube, but you can probably force that through if you drink enough water, and it'll stretch the ureter out. The problem is when this ureter stretches, something's going to hurt. I've been told by women who have had kids and had stones, they say the stones are worse than having a child. I've actually had a guy say this must be worse than having a child, but I don't know how he knew how childbearing felt. But when it goes into the ureter, that tube, there are two choke points, two areas of the ureter that are narrow. Right there and right here before the ureter enters the bladder. So that's usually where the big stones get stuck. I usually say greater than a centimeter. And again, you can find out how big they are on a CT scan. And if you're lucky enough to get them past that, with enough fluid, that means drinking a lot of water to force it down, then it might get choked off at this point here in the urethra, but hopefully you're home free. Pain control will help. If you can't get them past, there's a couple ways to destroy them. One is extracorporeal shockwave lithotripsy. That's when you sit in a dunk tank and they send sound waves through you. The sound waves don't disturb your kidneys or your belly or skin. They just hit the solid object, the stone, and they crumble after enough shock waves. Then there's also going through the ureter, going through the urethra, through the bladder, into the ureter with this thing that looks like a basket. It opens up once you're next to the stone, it grabs the stone and it pulls it out. I hope that you're knocked out for that because it's got to be a real painful technique, but it's necessary sometimes. If they're really big, the old-fashioned way is to cut through the back. Usually make an incision back here, and you cut through the ureter, take the stone out, sew up everything. Long healing time, really painful. And then you have adhesions afterwards. So those are the typical things. Doctors can modify and hopefully decrease your chances for future stone by knowing what the calcium or what the stone's made up of, calcium oxalates. There are different types of stones, bottom line is. And if you can catch the stone, then we can send them off to the lab to be analyzed, and then you can make some changes in your diet. But the bottom line is you got to watch your diet. Too much animal protein, too much salt is not healthy for somebody that has a history in the family of kidney stones. Truthfully, too much animal protein, too much salt is not healthy for anybody, and that's what's getting most Americans into obesity, prediabetes, prehypertension, cholesterol, all that stuff. So really have to curtail what you're eating and drink enough fluid. Try to avoid some of those, soda pop is really bad for you. So is excessive amounts of protein, especially my exercisers. If you're going to do protein, I still say take plant-based protein more so than animal-based protein. You'll have less stone formation supposedly, but those are the things that we sometimes do. Usually if you have your first stone, it's very painful, but once you have the knowledge that you're not going to die, that pain is tolerable. In fact, I have very good veterans that have been through this all the time, and they just call up and say, I'm having another stone, can I have some pain medicine? I'll stay home, I won't drive, and I'll drink a lot of fluid, and they usually pass it. So that's the bottom line with regards to kidney stones. The idea again is you can prevent this, and if it's your first time around, then you should at least know what to feed your kids because they might get it from you. So just try your best to lead a healthy life. I have seen some people go to acupuncturists and do acupuncture to help facilitate the speed at which this thing passes, and I think it works great. Just have to find an acupuncturist close to you, and I like the Chinese medicine and Chinese trained doctors. So hopefully this helps, but again, stay hydrated, try to cut down on the animal protein, and easy on the soda pops, and just watch your...